This is 10 Eyewitness News. First at 5 with Natasha Belling.
Good evening. First tonight, Western Australia is voting right now, and if two leading polls are anything to go by, Colin Barnett's Liberal government is heading for defeat. If things go as predicted, it will end 8 years on the sidelines for Labor in the West, and for Malcolm Turnbull in Canberra, nervous Conservatives could renew their push to oust him as Prime Minister. We'll cross to Jonathan Lee in Canberra in just a moment, but first to Bo Pearson in Perth. Bo, what's the feeling there among voters at the polling stations?
Natasha, we're getting some mixed reactions around polling booths today, but the overwhelming sense around the state is that Mark McGowan is set to be voted in as WA's new Premier. The Liberals campaign has been dominated by its controversial preference deal with Pauline Hanson's One Nation. For the WA Labor Party to win, it needs to pick up 10 seats, and according to recent polling, that's likely to happen. Chiara Zaffino has been on the campaign trail today.
It was a quiet but steady start as West Australians turned out to cast their vote.
I think I've decided to vote for somebody who's going to represent not only someone like me, but other people who need to be represented.
We're the stalwarts in enemy territory.
I think the other one's been in long enough, and I think we should have a change.
Joining the crowds, the Pollies trying to win them over, fighting till the very end. Colin Barnett remained defiant in the face of predicted defeat.
No, I don't brace for a loss, I always prepare for a win.
While Labor's Mark McGowan admitted it was going to be tough.
We've done everything we possibly can to win this election, and I think we presented a positive, fresh alternative to the people of WA.
Their camp pumped up by reinforcements from Canberra, while the federal Liberals were nowhere to be seen. Of course, tough decisions can't be made on an empty stomach. The long lines began as the smell of sausages sizzling filled the air.
You said you can't learn.
I'm eating it from the top down rather than the middle, as our Bill Shorten might do.
My auntie, who's with me, she's 83. I'm taking it for her.
It's got tomato sauce on it.
And for those with a sweet tooth, there's always the option of a sugar rush instead.
And vote, and then to reward yourself, then come back for a cake and a biscuit.
Weeks of campaigning now down to the count. Chiara Zaffino, 10 Eyewitness News.
Polling booths will remain open here in WA for a few more hours, but while the state waits to hear if it'll get a new Premier, the most exciting part of the day for many has been the sausage sizzle. Natasha?
Bo, thank you. Now to Canberra, where Jonathan Lee is standing by for us tonight. And Jonathan, judging by what Mr Turnbull was up to today, things certainly don't look very positive for the Liberals.
Good evening, Natasha. Well, we're used to our Prime Ministers joining with their state colleagues and handing out with them on the hustings, handing out those how-to-vote cards. But instead of the Prime Minister heading to the West today, as many would have expected, he instead put up a live Facebook video from a pub in Sydney. It really did play into the hands of his political opponents who questioned where he was. But this has been a political campaign unlike any other.
Pauline Hanson, a long way from Queensland. On a state level, One Nation has only existed in Western Australia for 3 months, but it could end up holding the balance of power.
Hello.
Its surging popularity 2 weeks ago has dwindled. Its leader left to explain an unlikely alliance with the Liberal Party she now regrets.
Everyone understand the preference system?
A backroom party deal federal Liberals hate.
I think it's actually done One Nation some damage.
From anti-racist protests through the week to popular candidate Margaret Dodd resigning last night, likening her leader to a dictator. One Nation is a political wrecking ball. But with the Barnett coalition government facing oblivion, 2 senior Liberal ministers hit the hustings. Yet such is the unpopularity of the party, neither Finance Minister Matthias Cormann nor Social Services Minister Christian Porter would front the media.
The one person who has been conspicuous in his absence is the Prime Minister. Yesterday it was said he would take greater ownership of his party's economic message, but today he was laying low, far from his coalition colleagues in Western Australia, but equally on the nose.
Now, I have to say, though, I haven't seen my opposite number, Mr Turnbull, anywhere today in Western Australia.
He popped up on Facebook in Sydney, swilling beer with journalists from a satirical newspaper.
Those elegant cattle are everywhere. Black cattle are fashionable.
There was even time for banter.
You'd enjoy a bit of mouth-to-mouth resuscitation from the lifeguards.
Depends who's doing it.
Exactly.
Malcolm Turnbull made just one unremarkable trip west during the campaign.
If the move is strongly to Labor at this election, it is very clear that people are sick of the general incompetence of the Turnbull government.
2 years ago in Queensland, Campbell Newman was turfed from government in a once unthinkable landslide defeat. The winds of change ended up costing Tony Abbott his leadership. Party insiders will be watching closely tonight.
Now, Natasha, we often talk about how the West was won. By the end of the night, we should know who and how the West was lost.
Indeed, Jonathan, thank you.